All right, welcome everybody. Let's start on our back, either with those knees bent or legs extended long. And as we prepare for our practice together today, just take a moment as you lie back onto your mat, close your eyes, and unclench the teeth as you soften your jaw, your face. And just begin that process of moving inward and uniting mind and body through your breath and awareness. And as we take the next hour to explore our inner state of being, and just invite your mind into that place of being the observer, the witness, rather than the judge or the criticizer of what shows up or doesn't show up. See if you can just open up a neutral space in your mind to be present with whatever comes between now and the end of the practice. And start by meeting your body where it is, just scanning the body from head to feet, just noticing where your attention needs to come home to the body based on where you're feeling the sensations. And then once you've met your body where it is and have a sense of what you're working with or working through today, check in at the level of your mind and bring the mind into alignment with something helpful, neutral, productive, positive. And so sometimes our intention might just be flipping a problem, right? Something we're worried about or concerned about. Maybe the intention is the ideal solution or best case scenario. So offer up whatever you'd like to align your mind with this morning, whether that's one powerful word or a concise statement. And it's really easy to offer up intention at the surface level of the mind. See if you can feel the power of the intention. Really tune into the emotion and invest your heart in those words or in that statement. It makes it much more meaningful if those words actually mean something, if there's an emotional tone behind that statement. And this morning I was inspired as our collective awareness, before we begin to move the body, important to, again, align the mind in that inner focus. So as we continue on this path of yoga, or in whatever practices we might be doing to spiritually evolve, to awaken, and to continue to grow, these are some of the things we might experience. As we grow on this path, eventually we start to see changes. Your mind becomes lighter. The trees look bright. The air you breathe begins to feel like food for new opportunity. Life takes on a crisp color pattern. Ups and downs will continue to come, and there's still much to learn. But you're calmer now. You do not fear the old storms or react the way you used to. In fact, the storms seem to pass more quickly now. A new awareness has arisen to gently remind you that your power is yours to wield. And this power is ready to propel you forward into peace and liberating insight. So tuning into that, and maybe even acknowledging whenever you started your path of yoga or any spiritual pursuits or practices, how much have you grown? What has changed? And it's important to remember that, especially when we get caught up in the day-to-day stresses and the chaos of the world, is to clear that space and to recognize, wow, I really have grown and I can continue to grow. And as I do, things should feel different. We should start to see things differently, feel things differently. So let's practice. Let's take a full breath in. Exhale, let it go. And then if those knees are bent, let's go ahead and stretch the legs out long. As we mindfully start to wake up the body, breath by breath, part by part, eyes can be opened or closed as you keep that mind present and focused. As we inhale, reach the arms overhead, point your toes, spread the fingers as you stretch those arms in opposite direction. Exhale, hug your right knee into your chest. We're going to stay in motion here before we pause. So inhale, arms and legs reach away from each other. Exhale, bring your left knee in. And then take your time here. If your breath is a little slower than what I'm calling, then by all means, honor that slow movement, not trying to rush or keep up with what I'm cueing. So let's just take that a few times, one side and then the other. Feeling into your body with this movement, with these breaths. As you start to awaken through the hips, lower back, the legs, noticing what's showing up and how it's showing up this morning. So we took it onto the right side to start. So next time you bring that right knee in, let's pause. So the next breath cycle that brings that right knee in, just pause for a moment, soften your jaw, neck, and shoulders, and rock your right thigh side to side as you tune in. Start to create a little more space to the hips, lower back, gluteal area. And then bring that knee back to center. Right hand to the kneecap, left arm stretching out from your shoulder. Let the leg be passive as you steer that right thigh around in a big circle. And then take it around the other direction. And then we're going to open up into our reclined tree pose, giving a little bit more of an opportunity to release that hip. So next time that knee opens out, place the foot somewhere along the inner left leg, and then stretch both arms out to your side. So you're welcome to have those elbows stay straight. Palms are face up, so you can feel like those shoulder blades can lie flat. You also have the option to bend those elbows. And then from here, you're welcome to stay fairly passive through the lower body, just let gravity do the work. Or you might engage those right glutes, just giving them a nice squeeze isometrically. And then notice what happens as you activate those right glutes. Notice how much more of a stretch you wake up in the front of the right hip. So just as if we were standing in a balance pose, that's how active you'd want that right leg to be. Now let it relax if those glutes were tense. Slowly turn your head to the left. Slowly turn your head to the right. And then bring the head to center, offer another breath in. Exhale it out. Let's lift that right leg, hug the knee into the chest again, flex all 10 toes towards your shins. Option to stay right here, or with your next exhale, engage your core and gently curl your head towards the right knee. And then release, head to the earth if you've lifted it. Arms can stretch out to your sides again. And then reach that right leg out at an angle, press out through the heel so that hip stays grounded, point your toes, flex the foot, and lower all the way down. And once you touch ground with that right leg, shake it out. Let's take that all to the other side, arms by your sides. Inhale, reach and lengthen, toes and fingers spread. Exhale, bring left knee into the chest. And pause, feeling into that release, a little deeper stretch that lower back. And then as you're ready to move, rocking gently side to side here. So coming back to what I read earlier, another sign or some signs that we might track along this path to see that we are evolving, perhaps raising levels of consciousness. And one of those things or byproducts or benefits, side benefits, would be feeling more peaceful with what's happening and less reactive. And that's a good benchmark for progress, for growth. And we're not seeking perfection or sainthood here, just improvement. How can we be a little bit better human today than we were yesterday, or the day before? Now, as you bring that left knee back in, let's pause, take a full breath in, exhale it out, stretch your right arm out to the side to let that shoulder release, and then begin that circling on this left side. And slow it down. And notice if you're trying to use those leg muscles to move itself, and see if you can just let that leg relax into the support of your hand and moving that leg with the power of your arms. So not trying to force anything here. And then take it around the other direction. And then as we prepare to release it on that next round, let's place that left knee to the earth in our reclined tree pose. And so as you place that left foot somewhere along the right leg, stretch both arms out and elbows can be bent or straight. And then just pause here for a moment passively, letting that left leg be relaxed. Come back to your breath. And then option to engage, squeeze those left glutes as you feel that left knee pressing towards the earth, left hip getting a deeper stretch. And then from there, if you'd like to release that neck, make sure those teeth are unclenched. And just gently roll your head side to side, maybe angling the chin towards each shoulder. Just Starting to release any tension you're holding here. And then if you're still engaging that left glute, let it relax. Take another breath in. Exhale with a sigh. And bring that left knee up. Hug it into the chest. Flex all 10 toes towards the shin. So again, option to stay right here. Or with that next exhale, engage the core, lift the head. And release. Head back to the earth. Arms out to your sides. Extend that left leg out at an angle. Press through the heel. Point the toes. Flex the foot. And slowly lower all the way down. And then shake out both legs here. So before we come up, bring those two sides together for Supta Baddha Konasana now. Recline cobbler. So bringing soles of the feet to touch. Knees open out. And bring the arms down by your sides as we take a few rounds of our reclined cat-cow. So on your inhalation, exaggerating that arch through the lower back as the abdomen expands towards the sky. Exhale, engage, rocking those hip bones back as you engage the core, pressing the spine towards the earth. Take that 2 more times. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale, reach. And then with that last one, as you exhale, arms come down, squeeze those thighs together, and bring both knees into the chest. And just rock it out. Bring your awareness now along the spine, from the hips, lower back, all the way through mid-back, upper back, and neck area. Just tuning into any sensations. And then as you bring those knees back to center, pause here, or with that next exhale, lift head and chest into both knees. And release, head to the earth, plant those feet to the floor. So before we come up, let's take a twist, bring those arms out to your sides one more time. Step the feet as wide as you can. So we're setting up for our windshield wiper twist. Try to keep your shoulders grounded with this twist. So as you inhale, belly expands. Exhale, let the knees move any amount to the left as you roll your head and chin towards that right shoulder. And then exaggerate that breath, moving along the rib cage. And then on your next inhale, bring it all back through center. Exhale, opposite direction. Knees go right, head to the left. And feel that breath expanding through those ribs with little muscles between each rib, helping us to breathe, moving that air in and out of the lungs. Feel them waking up. And then inhale, bring it back to center. Now keep those knees wide as you draw them towards you. Just take that first stage of happy baby so we can keep the tailbone and the shoulders on the ground. And knees are just a little wider as you rock side to side. And as we prepare to come up, bring the knees together. Your choice to roll to one side, or maybe take a little spinal rock to come on up. And then we're going to start just seated here, getting into the side body a little bit, into the neck and shoulders just a little more before we come on up to tabletop. So you're welcome to sit cross-legged, one leg in front of the other, or we could say in more of a symmetrical stance here with cobbler pose. And then bring those hands onto the knees. You don't have to sit on anything. Let's rock forward, arching through the spine like a little seated cat-cow. Exhale, rounding back. Draw your core in as you tilt your chin towards your chest. And then feeling that massage over your sits bones, the glutes. And just imagine having a nice grounding, calming effect as we rock back and forth. And this is a point along the body that is helpful. Right? We get those ischial tuberosities or sits bones. Be very calming to the nervous system. So notice if there's any sensitivity. Let's take it one more time. Rock forward and rocking back. And we'll add on. So next time you lift and lengthen through the spine, reach towards your right knee. Take it across to the left. And then rounding as we lean back. And then just noticing either eyes closed or maybe focused on one point where you're feeling this stretch, awakening the body. You can also start to imagine nice massage happening through those abdominal organs, preparing your digestive system for the day. And the next time you come forward, pause, and then just switch directions with the circling. And slowing it down if you feel like you're in a rush or in a hurry. Take pause, come back to your breath. If that mind has run off, bring it back to the body, reconnecting with those sensations. And the next time we come forward, we're going to pause. So as you lengthen your chest forward, hands out in front of you. Remember, it doesn't have to be a deep forward bend. Just go where you can as you exhale. And then inhale, come up. So what you're going to notice, whatever leg's in front, that's probably where you're going to feel the deepest stretch. And if you're in cobbler, you might feel it evenly or on that tighter side. And the next time you come up, let's walk those hands off to our sides. So before we switch across the legs, let's get into the side body. Lean to the right. Bring your hand onto your left hip, or maybe right into the waist where you're feeling the stretch. Keep that left shoulder back. So even if we barely lean to the right side, the moment we turn and twist, we're in a different pose, right? Different results. So see if you can just keep that shoulder blade or upper back area against that imaginary wall. And then turning just your gaze, your face towards that right hand. And then turn to look straight ahead. Offer one more breath here, jaws relaxed. Inhale, let's come back up. And switch, left arm comes out, right hand to the hip or the waist. Keep that right shoulder back. And then breathe, really feeling into anything that feels sticky, tight, just breathe into it. Start to soften, release any judgment or criticism of what that sensation means or feels like. Just breathe into it, holding that space for the body to let it go. And then if you'd like to turn your head here before we come up, turn to look to the left and then straight ahead. Come all the way back up. Let's shrug the shoulders to the ears, give them a little squeeze, release back and down. Now, before we switch across the legs, ground hands, fingertips, or fists. We might even need to angle out a little bit depending on the length of arms and torso. And then grounding down, shoulder blades back and down. Just tilt that right ear towards the right shoulder. And then open the mouth, or you might even open and close the mouth a few times just to be sure that you're not tightening up through those jaw muscles. But feel as though you're pressing that left shoulder down. So getting into these secondary breathing muscles that can get overworked from not being present, grounded, right? We're in a rush. Just breathing into that release, bring it back to center, inhale. Exhale, take it to the other side. Left here towards left shoulder, right shoulder back and down. And then noticing is one side a little tighter than the other. And maybe you'll hold that just a few more breaths. And then bring it back up. Shoulders release. One more. Let's turn the whole head and chin now to the right. Now, as you do that, see if you can consciously bring that left shoulder back. If we're really tight, it's going to want to come with. And then turn your head to center. And again, as you turn your head left, draw that right shoulder slightly back. Just a subtle movement. And then back to center. Let's switch the cross of the legs if they're crossed. And let's take that on the second side. So hands to the knees or thighs, rock forward and rock back. So let those shoulders move forward and back as well, just like we're doing a cat-cow, just doing a seated variation rather than on those knees this morning. But already noticing any differences just by switching the cross of the legs. And the next time we lift and lengthen, lean towards your left knee. Take it across to the right and then back around. Again, feeling into any similarities or differences on the second side. Another sign of progress or growth on this path is that we start to look at a big picture rather than just little snapshots in the moment. If we're making a decision, an opinion, and really at some point we start to live more in the middle than through the extremes. And that might be personally in terms of daily habits. Maybe it's less overindulgence and deprivation, less black and white sort of thinking, and we're able to see the middle or the gray area. Maybe we start to look at both sides of an equation, right, in order to find a solution. And then next time you come forward, let's switch directions. Take it around the opposite way. And we have to remember too, on the path of yoga, the ultimate goal is to rise above duality, the polarities, the opposites in the world, and to achieve a state of equanimity, right? Or really to be at peace with whatever moment we're in. because we know that it won't last forever. That's the good news and the bad news. But our attachments and resistance to things are what can cause us to stunt our growth or to feel trapped or stuck in a pattern of reactivity, negativity, or judgment. So next time you come forward, let's pause. Hands out in front. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale any amount forward and down. Noticing again, if that right leg is in front or whatever leg's in front, you're going to probably feel more of a stretch through that thigh and hip. So come up and down a few times, just easing into any of that intense sensation that's ready to release. And with that last one, letting it go with a sigh. And come all the way back up. Walk those hands back. Bring them off to the sides. Let's take our side stretch, lengthening, leaning to the left this time. Right hand to hip or waist. And just noticing by visiting this a second time, even though we've switched across the legs, you might even be able to go a little further. Or maybe that sensation is less intense than when we started. Feel free to turn the gaze, the head to the left, and then back to center. One more breath. Exhale it out. Come all the way up. Take it to the other side. Right arm out. Left shoulder back. Hand to hip or waist. And breathe. And we can turn the head to the right. Give a little stretch to the left side of the neck. Back to center. And come all the way back up. Shrug those shoulders to the ears. Give them a little squeeze. And then exhale back and down. And then one more little release through the neck and shoulders before we come on up. Press down through those hands. And this time we're going to turn the chin, the face to the right. And then angle your chin towards the right shoulder. So you're essentially looking down at your right fingertips. Unclench those teeth. You can stay right here or float that left arm up. And if you're taking that left arm up, bring it straight out from your shoulder, not higher or lower. And just turn that left palm face up. And then turn it the other direction, face down. And as you start to feel your way in that connection of what you might be holding the shoulders, how that might be pulling into the neck, just breathe through and noticing which direction of the palm might create more sensation through the neck or shoulder area. Next time that palm is face up, pause, take a full breath in. Exhale it out, turn the palm face down, return it to the floor, left hand to the earth, lift your chin, you're still looking to the right, and then come back to center. Shoulders back. Let's take that to the other side, turning any amount to the left. Either stay right here or tilt that chin towards the left shoulder. And if you're adding on, float your right hand straight out from your shoulder, reaching those fingertips away. Palm is face up, so the whole arm moves where that hand is leading. And then turning palm face down, creating what we call internal rotation through that shoulder. And again, as you do this, notice which part, what movement might create more sensation. And that can give you an idea of any physical patterns you're creating throughout your daily movements, any sports or activities you're playing. And the next time that palm is face up, take another breath. Let's return right palm to the earth. Lift your chin. You're still looking to the left. And then come back to center. Squeeze those shoulders to the ears and then let them go. Now let's straighten out those legs from that bent knee position. Shake them out in front of you. And let's just come into a Paschimottanasana before we come on up. Big toe bones touch. Bend those knees. Inhale, reach the arms up. Exhale, fold, checking in with the whole back body here as we pause for a moment. Reconnect your head with your heart through your intention. Come back to your breath. And if it feels good, you might even turn that head side to side, getting a nice stretch in the back of the neck. Let those shoulders release. And then on your next breath, let's come all the way back up. Reach those hands behind you and shake out those legs. And let's make our way now onto all fours into a tabletop position. So as you come onto hands and knees, bring those hands and knees same width apart so they're parallel to each other. And we feel nice and stable. Spread those fingers wide. And we're just going to take a little circular motion with our cat-cow. So actually you can walk your hands a little further forward of those shoulders so you have some more space. You can even go a little bit wider with those knees if you like. And let's just start by shifting the hips to the right and shift hips left. So if the knees are too close, this is going to feel a little awkward. So make sure you have at least a fist or two width against in between your knees. I'm just getting into that side seat here. Take one more to the left. And then sweep it around like we're coming to puppy pose and take a big circle. So letting the hips lead the way. If this is uncomfortable for your knees, you're welcome just to work with a few rounds of cat-cow. Grab a little extra padding or skip it if it just isn't working. We can always just pause in child's pose. Now, next time you reach back into puppy, pause, take it around the other direction. So we don't want to feel like we're going into a big back bend here. Keep that core slightly engaged. So as you come forward, you're not dipping into the lower back. Just feeling a nice stretch into the IT band, into the outer glutes. And then next time we come back, let's open those knees a little wider and ease into child's pose for a moment. Shift side to side, come back to your intention. Return awareness to your breath and just noticing any subtle changes that you, or obvious changes that you're already aware of taking place within you since we started. And as we come on up, walk those hands back, level off the knees. Let's step forward with the left foot, step up with your right foot, and ease into your forward fold near the middle or top of your mat as you roll those shoulders back. Let the head go. Turn it side to side, nodding yes, shaking the head no. Relax your jaw. Stick out your tongue and say, ah. Let some of that tension out of your neck, throat, vocal cords. And then from here, bend those knees a little deeper. Hands to thighs. I'm going to rise up with a long spine. Strong legs. Come all the way up. Shoulders release. Back and down. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, fold. Inhale, halfway. Flat back. Exhale, fold. Plant your hands. Step it back with the right leg. Low or mid lunge. If you want to go right into balance, you certainly can. Or just pause in that hip opening opportunity. You're welcome to add a little neck release to the front and the back of the neck. So if you'd like, you can inhale, look up. Exhale, look down. Keep that jaw relaxed. You might even notice by changing the position of the head and neck, that might change the sensation, what you're feeling through that right side, that right hip. Take it one more time if you're moving the head. Exhale, looking down. If you've lifted those hands for balance, bring them back to the earth. And let's sweep that left leg back and come on to all fours. We're going to take a little chaturanga prep before we take that second side. If you want to take the full expression, you can. But let's just bring those forearms down, sort of like a dolphin pose. Bring the elbows slightly in front of your shoulders. And then rather than collapsing your lower back, draw the core in. Look forward. On your next exhale, lowering halfway down. So belly and chest stay hovering above the earth, and then press it back. If you need to go wider with those arms, do it. So if you feel kind of compressed in the shoulders, just give yourself more space. All right, that's part of the mindfulness that evolves as we practice, as we become much more in tune. And we are less likely to need any voices outside of us to tell us what we need because we already know. Right? We're that in tune, that in touch with our body, our thoughts, our mind, our emotions. Take it one more time and bring it all the way down. Press into your feet. Keep the arms out to your sides in like a goalpost arm. And as you inhale, let's lift up, lifting with those strong upper back muscles. Exhale, lower down. One more. Inhale, lift. Exhale, lower. Bring those hands alongside your chest. Let's press up, back, and through. Find your reset. Maybe you want to ease in your first downward dog of the practice. Walking out those legs, stretch it out. If you prefer to just pause in child's pose, then offer that. And then wherever you are, we'll be here for just another breath or two before we take our second lunge. So from downward dog or child's pose, let's come on up. Step your right foot forward. And then do your best to match what you did on that first side if it's available. Low, mid, or balanced lunge. So that might be from a low or a high lunge if you're lifting those arms. And then pause and bring your whole awareness into that left side now. Notice what's going on here. Free up the breath. And then if you want to take a little neck stretch here, you can begin that tilt, extension and flexion through the cervical spine or through your neck. Another thing to keep in mind, which you are all aware of in the way that we've taught yoga over the years through Joyful Yoga, is that the body is really just a side benefit, right? The physical enhancement, so to speak. Now, if you're moving the head, just look straight ahead here, take another breath or two. So we should feel progress on the physical level, but ultimately on this path, we have to check in at the level of the mind, our perception and awareness. And that's really where we're trying to grow and evolve, ultimately, not just in the physical changes that the practice can bring. So on your next breath, if you've lifted those hands, bring them back down. And let's shift back. Take that right leg around. And then if you'd like to stay with that first chaturanga, dolphin prep, upper body strengthener, go for it. Forearms on the ground. If you want to take the next step, then we want to bring the elbows in. Now it's important, though, that you're not trying to go down between your hands. It's not the pose. So you're actually gliding your chin and face past your hands as you hug those elbows in. It's a completely different movement. So if you're taking this option, you might rock forward and back. Remember, we don't have to go far to get those triceps to wake up. Trying to target the back of those arms. So ease into it. If it's too much, bring those forearms back down to the floor. And that next one, we're going to lower all the way down. So the easiest way for you to get there, slowly lower and pause. Press the feet, press the pelvis, arms by your sides this time, palms face down. And then as you inhale, lift from your heart. Neck doesn't move, the head's just lifting and lowering with the chest. Exhale, lower. So meaning we're not tilting the head forward and back like we just did a moment ago. Inhale, come up, feel those shoulder blades hugging toward each other. Exhale, lower. Let your breath help you lift and lower. One more, inhale. And exhale. And then pause. You can make a pillow with your hands or just rest your face on the earth, turning it to one side if that feels good for the neck. And then turn it the other direction if you've turned it so you have an even stretch. And then bring your head back to center and let's come to Sphinx pose. One more back bend. This one will just pause. So you can bring those forearms out in front of you again. Now remember, we don't have to have the elbows super close to the body. In fact, you might actually feel better if you bring those elbows slightly forward. And so we're trying to avoid a deep pinching through that lumbar spine. So pressing into those arms, feel like you're scooping your tailbone to the earth. Almost like you're trying to lift your lower abdomen, right, without trying to do it. It's just a byproduct of that alignment, that engagement. So press into your feet, press down through the pelvis, and then as you press into your elbows, feel your heart reaching forward, and then just close your eyes. And you might again reflect on your own progress on this path as a yogi. How has your mind changed? Your perception, your awareness. We have to remember that part of this path is being willing to see everything in the world as a reflection of ourselves. And that can be difficult, especially when we're seeing things we don't like, we don't agree with. And yet we're all part of it, whether we realize it or not. So part of the growth on this path is really responsibility. Right? Taking responsibility for how we show up, and what we're contributing to the world. Negativity, judgment, criticism is just adding more to the same problem. And at some point, it takes a higher level of consciousness, right, to find a different solution. That's what Albert Einstein speaks to, is we cannot find a solution with the same mind that created the problem. So again, part of the progress on this path and how we know yoga is working for us is our mind, attitude, and awareness begin to shift. So let's take another breath here and then gently release. And as you pause here, keep the neck neutral. So maybe just the chin or the forehead onto those hands rather than turning it side to side. And then just gently let those hips release here, shifting hips side to side. And then before we come out of this, if you want a little reverse windshield wiper to release that spine from the back bends, bend your knees and just gently move those feet side to side. We turn legs to the earth. Let's bring those hands alongside the chest. Strong arms, strong core as you press up. And then reach it back. Knees open, toes touch. Coming into your child's pose. And if it feels good, you can shift side to side. And then support your head. Deep breath in. Exhale, let it go. Walk those hands back. Point the knees straight ahead. And then shift your hips to one side as you bring those legs around in front of you. Let's shake them out. And we're going to come into you have two options. You could work with cobbler, well, really three. Cobbler pose, Paschimottanasana, if you want to visit that again. Or we can take our wide-legged V shape as our hip opening forward bend as we wind down our practice. So remember, if you're taking this option, those legs are really tight, you can always bend the knees. Sit on the edge of a cushion or just keep those hands behind you for support. This is a good one to try doing up against a wall, right? So you can kind of lean into that support rather than rounding. And then wherever you are, come into the breath by closing the eyes. Let the breath take you into the sensation. And then relax your jaw. And then if and when the body is ready to take on more sensation, you can begin to tilt forward from the hips. And feel free to offer any support for the upper body as you pause here. So either keeping that mind focused on one thing, or perhaps closing those eyes and looking inward. One of the quotes that comes to mind from Wayne Dyer that is aligned with what I've been speaking about in terms of progress on this path. And one of my favorite quotes by him is he says, as we change the way we look at things, the things we look at change. And this is where our perception is really the creator of our reality. So a matter of what we're focused on day by day and what we are investing in intellectually, emotionally, physically. The problem or the solution. Cool thing about our mind, as much as we think it can be in two places at once, it can't. Our mind can actually only occupy one thought at a time, which might seem amazing since we're constantly consumed with thoughts. So if we are focused on a problem, then we can't hold space for the solution. If we are rigid and fixed in our way is the only way, then we can't open ourselves up to other opportunities or possibilities. We can't be in two places at once, just yet. At some point, we can evolve to that. So which is it? So I've given this example to people over the years that are suffering with illness, right? If we're trying to heal our body, we can't at the same time keep proving how sick we are or keep talking about how sick we are. It's a conflicting or opposing thought. And so what happens is the dominant thought, the one that is strongest and easiest for you to think, becomes the default. That becomes the pattern. And so it's a tough cycle to break, but we have to be aware of it before we can break it. So maybe we practice right now, right? Come back to your body in your pose. And rather than fearing the intense sensation or wanting to get out of that tightness, can you reframe your perception? And I'm pretty tight this morning. I did a workout yesterday, so I woke up with tight hamstrings. But I don't look at it and say, oh, tight hamstrings, boo. I think, wow, I feel strong. Whatever I did yesterday worked. Now let me stretch it out, get that lactic acid to release. It can be neutral, it doesn't have to be negative. Right? Maybe we're not ready for the positive, but we can at least slide into neutral, right? Into that peaceful moment of pause. So let's take another breath here. Exhale it out, perhaps releasing your head if you haven't had a chance to let that neck go. And then when you're ready, coming up, walk the hands back. Shoulders release, and we sit up tall. As those hands come back behind, if you did move forward, let's activate those strong inner thigh muscles, squeeze the legs together, and shake them out. And then from here, let's establish our steady seat. We will have a chance to end in Shavasana today. If you'd like to end the practice in Shavasana, you also have the opportunity to stay in meditation if you'd like. So grab a comfortable seat so that we don't undo all the good work we've done, releasing hips, lower back. So make that a chair, bench, stool, a step, wherever you are. Work with whatever's available. And if you are on the ground, it's essential you sit up on something. That's part of the pose, right? Part of the alignment, and it'll make it a little easier, less distracting. So once you're there, close your eyes. Let's take a deep breath in and a long breath out. And we're going to work with a cooling breath today in honor of it being Pitta season and the height of summer. So if you need this breath work at any time, it can be essential for any motion sickness, seasickness, car sickness. If you know women that are pregnant and have morning sickness, this can be helpful for them as well, or anything nauseous or hot in the stomach. So closing your eyes for just a moment, take a deep breath in again. Exhale it out. And now you're either going to curl your tongue like a taco or pucker your lips, whatever's easier. And we're going to inhale like we're breathing in through a straw. So inhale through puckered lips or curled tongue. Feel that cooling air. Close your lips and exhale silently through the nose. So it's no ujjayi breath, just a silent exhale. And then we repeat a few times. Inhale through the mouth. Exhale softly through the nose. You might envision that breath as a cooling blue light, calming, soothing the mind, body, and senses. Just take about 10 rounds. So if you feel a little lightheaded or dizzy at any time, simply stop, come back to your normal breath. This can be helpful too for calming those sort of hard edges of our own thinking, our own mind, our own perception. And not that this is necessarily a Pitta balancing class, but I've spoken about the last few days. One of the characteristics of a Pitta imbalance is becoming more finicky, right? Becoming more critical, judgmental, impatient, frustrated, irritated. And remember, Pitta accumulates all summer long, especially if you've been in Southwest Florida. Chances are that Pitta is pretty high by this time of year. Right. So if you notice that you're easily agitated, maybe more than ever, this is a wonderful breathing technique to cool and calm mind, body, emotions. So taking that last round, if you're still working with it, come back to your normal breath. And then return awareness to either your mantra, if you meditate with one, or your intention that you've been using for this practice. Focus in on that now. And you just continuously repeat that mantra or statement silently to yourself as you let the natural breath flow without effort. And we allow the body to pause and rest in stillness. Just become the witness, noticing the quality of thoughts that try to come up and interrupt your focus. And just by glancing at those thoughts as they show up and then letting them go, perhaps noticing, is the quality of that thought positive, negative, or neutral? And then once you've noticed, let it go, come back to your focus, your focal point. Take a moment with the eyes closed to notice where the mind has gone. Observe the quality of thoughts the mind has become preoccupied with. And let it go and redirect your mind back to your mantra or your intention. taking a moment to check in with your physical body. The mind is becoming distracted by the bodily sensations. And then just allow yourself to make your way into a final resting position on the earth, perhaps constructive rest pose or shavasana. And if you are choosing to remain seated for the last moments of our time together today, feel free to adjust your posture so that you can reconnect, refocus at the level of the mind. And then we'll start again. And so whether you're seated or reclined, you can keep that mind anchored in that productive focal point. That the more we repeat something, the more power we give it. And our problem as humans is we like to repeat the negative. It's like a subconscious addiction. So we tend to repeat thoughts of fear, anxiety, what if, and we tend to repeat the problem over and over and over, giving it more and more power every time we think of it, every time we speak to it. So part of the progress on this path is to be more mindful of what you give voice to, but also be more discerning as to what you allow to fill your headspace. And so we look to see what we are bringing in through our senses throughout the day. And as we continue to evolve and grow and learn more about ourselves on this yogic path, we again become more in tune to what feeds us, what drives us crazy, what stresses us out. And we become more mindful when we choose to engage in the things that don't feel good, because we realize we have that power of choice. So coming back now to your breath, coming back to your own heartfelt intention for the practice. And we're offering these tools that are essential for growth on this path. Proper rest, always learning, consistent honesty with self and others, building new habits, letting go of old stories, saying no to old patterns, believing that you can change, saying yes to supportive people, finding a practice to heal any past pain, and creating the time to build self-awareness with time in silence, solitude, and self-reflection. And coming back to your breath, come back to your body, the space that you occupy. And just noticing the growth that you've made just through this practice today, this last hour. Your ability to practice being present and aware at the level of your mind, present with your body and breath. And so as you deepen your breath now, begin to wiggle your fingers and toes, whether you are lying down or seated. And begin to turn that head side to side, soften through the neck. Relax those shoulders. And if you are reclined, you can bend those knees, clamp the feet to the earth, and gently draw them into the chest. And as you hug the knees into the chest, gently roll to one side. And if you're still seated, feel free to shake out those legs, move around a little bit. And we'll come together for our closing for today's practice. So as you're ready, bringing those palms to touch in a gesture of union, state of yoga that we've come to. And as we bow our heads to our hearts, may we honor our own personal growth day by day. And may we look to see the things that still challenge us, that we might struggle with, as divine opportunities to keep learning and growing and refining self-awareness. And in this place, we bow together as a work in progress and divine reflections of each other. And in this space, we bow together as one. Namaste.